Hey guys, so this video I'm gonna be doing my favorite 10 offseason moves of the NFL in 2019. This is not going to be including the draft. It's going to be just trades and free agent signings that have happened prior to when I released this, obviously. And this is on the Sunday right before the NFL draft, so it's like April 20th maybe or something like that, April 21st, whatever it is. So yeah, anything prior to that. And so with all that being said, let's get into this. And before I even start, I just want to say this is not like the best 10 players. It's just like based off of values and team fits and stuff like that. Like it's not just like the top 10 rated players that were free agents and stuff like that. So a little more thought went into it than just that. So I don't want you guys to comment like, hey man, you left out like so and so player. He's better than this guy. Like yeah, obviously, but I'm trying to do this like for best fit for a team and the best bargain value for free agents and stuff like that. So with all that being said, let's get into the video. So starting us at number 10, he definitely wasn't the cheapest option, but I think he's a good fit for the Packers. It's Adrian Amos, the former free safety for the Bears. It's funny, Clinton-Dix went to the Bears, I just realized, and then Adrian Amos went to the Packers, so it kind of like they just switched teams and stuff like that. So anyway, he signed a 4-year, $36 million deal this offseason with the Packers. He's 26 years old, had a PFF grade of 82.7 in 2018. That's very impressive. In 2018, he totaled 73 combined tackles, 2 interceptions, 1 sack, and 9 passes deflected. The Packers add Amos to a team with a young defense, along with newcomers like Preston and Zadarius Smith, and hint, hint, they'll be in this video later, who look to replace Clay Matthews and Nick Perry. So Amos especially will replace Clinton-Dix, as I said before. And he was traded during the 2018 season, so whoever the Packers had in the second half at safety during last season, it's definitely an upgrade, and Amos is still a pretty good safety in the NFL. He wasn't the best safety in free agency, but I think he's definitely up there. He was probably top 3, top 5, so he'll be a nice fit for this Packers defense, which should be much improved next season. Up next at number 9, and yes, I did screw up the 9 on top there. You can see I wrote a black 9, so I screwed up the whole picture here. But anyway, number 9 is Devin Funchess, who signed a 1-year, $10 million deal with the Indianapolis Colts. He's 25 years old. In 2017, had 66 receptions, 840 yards, 8 touchdowns, and in 14 games last season, had 44 catches for over 500 yards and 4 touchdowns. So I think the Colts, they really needed a wide receiver 2 this year in the worst way. I mean, we still have the draft to go, and they still could address it there. But last year, they had guys like Ryan Grant, Chester Rogers, and Dontrell Inman trying to be their wide receiver 2. Obviously, they have T.Y. Hilton as well. They do have a talented 6th-round rookie from last year, Deon Cain, who tore his ACL before the season started. And they just need a guy that can be across from T.Y. Hilton and be a difference maker. They have Hilton, they have Ebron. They really need that third guy to be a good receiver for this team. And in the divisional round of the 2018 playoffs, the Colts looked overmatched offensively compared to a terrible Chiefs defense. So the Colts definitely need another playmaker and a guy that can be a consistent target for Andrew Luck. They revamped the whole offensive line there, and they look to have a very good offensive line for next year. So that shouldn't be an issue. They just need guys that can make plays on the outside. Funchess isn't very explosive, but he's a big target and can be a big red zone factor as well. So I like this move for the Colts a lot, especially for 1 year. I mean, it's can't go wrong. It's a 1-year, $10 million deal, so it won't hurt them in the long term for sure. Number 8, you saw him in the thumbnail. It's LeVeon Bell, the new Jets running back, signed a 4-year, $52.5 million deal this offseason to join the Jets. In his last season, he played in 2017. Bell rushed for nearly 1,300 yards, 85 receptions, almost 700 yards, and 11 total touchdowns in 15 games played. Still one of the best running backs in football. People expected Bell to have a bigger contract, but they're paying him $13 million per season, so it's really not bad from the Jets' perspective. Last season, the Jets' backfield had guys like Isaiah Crowell, Elijah McGuire, and Bilal Powell, and Trenton Cannon. And Crowell did have 4.8 per carry last year, but he just didn't really seem that effective. That really shocked me, that stat right there, that he averaged almost 5 yards per carry, because it really didn't seem like it. But Le'Veon Bell is a whole different player in terms of receiving game than Isaiah Crowell is. So they're getting a bigger upgrade there, obviously. And the signing of Bell should take a lot of pressure off their 22-year-old quarterback, Sam Darnold. I actually think he's 21 right now, but I think he'll be 22 by the start of next year. So I think the signing makes a lot of sense for the Jets. They have all the cap space in the world, it seemed like before this free agency started. They added C.J. Mosley as well, and now they have LeVeon Bell. So I think that's a good signing for their offense. The Jets need explosive players. They have Robbie Anderson on the outside. Their tight end Chris Herndon looked pretty good towards the pretty much towards the whole season. I was going to say towards the end of the season, but he looked pretty good last year as well. So the Jets might have an explosive offense next year. We'll see what happens, and it really depends on how Sam Darnold develops. But I think Le'Veon Bell, for the price they got him at and the need they had at running back, I think that's a really good signing for the Jets. At number 7, we have a slot cornerback by the name of Bryce Callahan. I wanted my Giants to sign him this year, and the Broncos got him for a pretty good value, 3 years, $27 million. He is 27 years old. In 2018, he had a PFF grade of 81.4, very nice. During his 4 years in the NFL, he totaled 123 tackles, 4 sacks, 21 pass deflections, 4 interceptions, and 1 forced fumble. His teammate Chris Harris Jr. on the Broncos says he wants to play outside more and is kind of tired of playing in the slot. So now that Callahan is there, that Chris Harris can probably do that, which is good for him. Callahan allowed .69, nice, receiving yards per coverage snap in the slot, which was the fewest among 30 cornerbacks who were eligible, who had at least 200 coverage snaps. Considering another slot corner, Justin Coleman, received a bigger contract, I personally believe the Broncos got some pretty nice value for Callahan. I think he's a really good player. I mean, is there a chance that he was kind of overrated because the Bears had a really good defensive line and made the secondary's job easier? Maybe, but I still think he's a good player overall, and the stats tell the story for him, so I think the Broncos had a pretty nice signing there. At number 6, and this is what I was saying before, like, is Shaq Barrett a better player than Le'Veon Bell? Hell no. But I think for the value they got him at, this was a really nice signing by the Tampa Bay Bucks. So they signed Barrett for 1 year, $5 million. In 13 games in 2018, Barrett had a PFF grade of 76.1, including 3 sacks, 28 combined tackles, and 7 quarterback hits. I put this at number 6 because I think it's just a great deal. I think, the 1 year, $5 million deal for a 26-year-old linebacker who has something to prove. He's never really been a full-time starter as far as I know for the Broncos. If there's any Broncos fans watching, you can correct me on that, but I'm pretty sure he's never been like a full-time starter for them. So they have Todd Bowles now at defensive coordinator, and the Bucs should have a 3-4 scheme, allowing Barrett to rush the quarterback at outside linebackers. So that's something he wasn't really able to do in Denver, but I think he will receive more playing time on the Bucs and will be able to prove himself. I think it's a good move for both sides. It gets him on the field more, and for the Buccaneers, they get themselves a pretty good linebacker for a very cheap price. And it's only 1 year, obviously, but for $5 million, I mean, there's definitely guys making $5 million that are worse players than Shaq Barrett, so I think it's a nice deal for the Buccaneers overall. So I hinted at this before. I said Preston Smith and Zadarius Smith were going to be on here. Preston Smith signed for 4 years, $52 million, came from the Redskins, and then Zadarius Smith, who came from the Ravens, signed for 4 years, $66 million. So 2 former outside linebackers for the Packers, Clay Matthews and Nick Perry, were both let go this offseason. I think they were both cut. So they have open spots at outside linebacker, and Green Bay definitely addressed that in free agency, getting some 2 really good pass rushers, guys that are, I guess, overlooked by most people and definitely can be an effective duo for the Packers for the next 4 years or so. So both Smiths had a PFF grade over 71, and they were very effective players in 2018. You might not see it by looking at the stats, but I mean, I think Zadarius Smith had a really nice year. So in his 4-year career, Preston Smith never missed a game, had 12.5 combined sacks over the last 2 seasons. He had a better season 2 years ago, but overall, still a good player. And Zadarius Smith had a career year in 2018, tallying 8.5 sacks and 45 combined tackles. Both guys 27 and under. So, the Packers had a pretty below-average defense last year, and I think adding these 2 guys for their pass rush is huge. Clay Matthews is not the same player he used to be. Nick Perry never stayed on the field, so you're bringing in guys that don't miss games and guys that can get to the quarterback. I think it's a big move for the Packers, and I'm definitely on the Packers bandwagon this year. I'm expecting some big things from them. They got a new coach as well, so we'll see what happens with them, but I'm pretty excited, and I think these signings right here, although it's for a lot of money, I think it's worth it because in today's NFL, you obviously need guys to get to the quarterback, and these are some underrated pass rushers that can definitely do the job for the Packers. At number 4, I have my Giants trading for right guard Kevin Zeidler from the Browns. So the Giants traded Olivier Vernon and a 4th-round pick for a 5th-round pick for Kevin Zeidler as well. So Zeidler's going to be 29 this year, And I want to say, before talking about Zeidler, I must mention how this was a great trade for both sides. The Giants obviously needed a right guard with Jamon Brown going to the Falcons, and Jamon Brown wasn't too effective for the Giants last year anyway. But I think Vernon going to the Browns is a big move as well, because they needed a guy opposite of Myles Garrett. They added Sheldon Richardson as well, the former Jet. So it might create a lot of problems for opposing offenses for the Browns defense. The Browns also had a right guard they drafted at 33 last year. I forget his name, but he's going to fill right in at that spot. So the Browns, they could afford to trade a guy like Zeidler and fill in a pretty good backup as well. So Zeidler last year was one of the best rated right guards for pass blocking. He was ranked 21st in 2018. So I mean, he's a good player, Kevin Zeidler. I mean, I honestly did not know much about him before he was traded for by the Giants, but after watching his highlights and stuff like that, he's a pretty damn good player, and he's going to help the Giants a lot. I think this is it's a move I like for team need, because I said the Giants, they let their right guard go, Jamon Brown. He went to the Falcons, so the Giants need a right guard. They got themselves one of the best ones in the game right now, so I think Kevin Zeidler going to the Giants is big, but I also think Olivier Vernon going to the Browns is big as well. That's if Vernon can stay healthy, because that's a big issue for his. But if Vernon's healthy for the Browns, I think that's a big move as well. So that move should definitely be in here. But I would say for the Giants, it's a bigger need to get themselves a really good right guard like Kevin Zeidler. At number 3, we have the DeForest sign and trade. This is hard for me to put at number 3 because I love this move so much for the Niners. The Niners might be a scary team this year if you look at what they have on the defensive line now. They're potentially going to have, well, they already have, DeForest Buckner, who plays defensive tackle. I think Buckner had, did I write in here? He had 12 sacks last year. He's an insane defensive tackle for them. They are going to have D4 now, and they also might have Nick Bosa as well. So this could be a huge move for the Niners and create a potentially scary defensive line. And they got him in a trade for a second-round pick. Then they had to sign him for 5 years, $87.5 million, which is a big move. He's 28 years old. It could be risky. Maybe, D Ford before last year never had that big of a year. He was kind of inconsistent, but last year had a great year, and maybe he figured out how to finally rush the quarterback consistently. But, overall, I think D Ford is going to be a really effective player for this Niners team. He had 13 sacks last season, and, the next closest player on the Niners after DeForest Buckner had 5.5 sacks, so he definitely needs help on the defensive line. So adding another guy there could be huge, and the Niners might have 3 ridiculous players on the defensive line next year. They're going to get Jimmy G back as well. So the Niners are definitely a team you should not be sleeping on. They're going to be really good next year, in my opinion. I love Kyle Shanahan as a coach as well, so I think they're going to do some really nice things there as long as people stay healthy, and that was their problem last year. So as long as Jimmy G's on the field, D Ford stays on the field, DeForest Buckner's on the field, they should be fine, and we'll see who they draft in number 2 this year, because it's going to be very interesting. At number 2, we all know him. It's Nick Foles. Not the cheapest option, but I think it's a big team need. Foles is only 30 years old. They got him for $88 million for 4 years. So the Jacksonville Jaguars have a very talented defense. Many people know, obviously, but they were stuck with Blake Bortles, who was, doing below average things at quarterback, to put it nicely. The Jags were basically one play away, or just one quarter away, from making the Super Bowl 2 seasons ago. They have the same nucleus on that defense, and I think the Jags just need themselves I don't want to say a great quarterback, because I don't think Nick Foles is a great quarterback, but just a competent quarterback who can just make the simple throws. That's stuff that Blake Bortles could not do consistently. So in 2017, Jacksonville's defense ranked top 2 in sacks and points against. So if you add Nick Foles to this offense and he makes it an average offense, I think we could see the Jaguars back into the playoffs. They can make themselves a deep playoff run, but I really think this could be a scary team as long as Nick Foles plays the way he did in Philadelphia the last couple of years. I hope it's not a fluke, and I hope he's not just a system quarterback for their case. So as long as Nick Foles plays some average quarterback for the Jaguars, they should be a good team next year, because Blake Bortles lost them a lot of games. Blake Bortles got benched last year. I forget for who it was. It wasn't anyone good either. It might have been like Cody Kessler or something like that. But yeah, Nick Foles should be a huge addition to the Jaguars. They still have a lot of their same defensive players from 2017. So I'm excited to see what they do next year. I think they could be another sleeper team, and they could be a really good play in the AFC. So we'll see what happens with them next year. So number one, I went with Tyrann Mathieu, 26-year-old safety who signed for 3 years, $42 million. This one's just 100% on need. I don't think Tyrann Mathieu's the same player he was his first few years in Arizona, but he's still a pretty damn good safety. And the Chiefs really need a safety because Eric Berry, I think, played 3 games the last 2 seasons, and he is departed from there. So I really think that they, them adding a good safety like Tyrann Mathieu is going to be huge for them. The Chiefs had a pretty rough secondary last season. Obviously, Marcus Peters went to the Rams, and I can't even name who was playing the Chiefs secondary last year. So they need guys there. I think adding a guy like Mathieu who can control the field and be a ball hawk for them, make tackles in the open field is going to be a huge thing. So the Chiefs, once again, they were a play away from the Super Bowl last year, and if they had a good safety for the whole season, it could have made the difference for them. And the Chiefs should get even better next year. Honestly, I mean, they have a very young quarterback, and Andy Reid's a good coach, so they should be fine. And I think adding a talented safety like Mathieu is going to be a pretty huge addition for them, and it might be enough to get them over the top and beat the Patriots next year. So that was my top 10 list, but let's throw in some sleepers and trades just to make it funny. Well, sleepers and trades, signings and trades that are sleepers just to make it more fun. So Jason Verrett, who's still 27 years old, is a cornerback who signed with the Niners. In 2015, he was a tremendous player. He was regarded as one of the best corners in football. Unfortunately, has had some really, really bad luck with injuries. I think he's had Achilles tears, ACL tears, and stuff like that. But if this guy can stay healthy and play across from Richard Sherman, he could still be a very effective player. He's still young. As long as health's on his side, he'll be fine. So I think Jason Verrett's a nice discount for the Niners and can potentially be a really good player for them as well. Dante Moncrief going to the Steelers, I think, is overlooked by a lot of people. He's a player I've always been a fan of, and he's had to deal with injuries as well as injuries at the quarterback position. But when Moncrief played with Andrew Luck, who was, by far better than any quarterback the Colts had, and that's no offense to, I guess, Matt Hasselbeck and Jacoby Brissett, whoever was playing there. Moncrief with Andrew Luck was still an effective player, and he had 6 touchdowns with Andrew Luck one year. So, I think playing with Big Ben in an offense where they pass a lot, I think it'll be big for him. I think Moncrief played every game last year. He might have played 15, but overall was healthy for most of the season. And as long as he stays healthy, I think he'll be fine for the Steelers. I like that signing a lot. I'm going to pronounce his name wrong, but Kelechi Osemele from the Raiders, former left guard for them, was traded for a 5th-round pick and went to the Jets. Was a former Pro Bowler in 2015, 2016, made All-Pro, first-team All-Pro in 2016. The Jets definitely need offensive line help for Darnold and Le'Veon. I think that's a nice move, a low-risk, high-reward type of move. Matt Paredes going to the Panthers. So Ryan Khalil, who had been their starting center since 2008, I believe, retired this offseason. They left a hole at center. And Paredes has started 57 straight games and has had a pretty nice career for the Broncos. He's a solid center, so I think him going to Carolina is going to be a nice move. And this one's a deep, deep sleeper, but Bruce Ellington's a receiver I've always been a fan of. He just can never stay healthy as well, or never finds himself in the right offense. He's 27 years old. Going to the Patriots to maybe fill in that Cordero Patterson role. He's definitely he has the athleticism and the explosiveness to do it. I just hope he can stay healthy because when he's healthy, he's a really good player. So if Ellington can stay on the field, he'll be fine. I think he'll be a pretty good player for them, and he's a reliable target, fast player, and he should be fine for the Patriots and filling in for that Cordero role. So. We'll see what happens with him. I hope health's on his side. That's a lot of the issue for, I would say, about 3 or 4 of these guys on this list right now. So if they stay healthy, he'll be he'll be a big contributor for the Patriots next year, in my opinion. So anyway, thanks for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope the draft goes well for all of your teams. And if you enjoyed this, leave a like, leave a comment on who you thought was the best signing this offseason, and we can talk about it in the comments. So thanks for watching. I'll talk to you guys next time.